Hi, third graders. It's nice to be back with you. This is Mrs. Andes. We are going to work today on another tool that artists can use to draw things in perspective and in a position that makes sense. Last week we started a little bit. I showed you a lesson on 1-point perspective. This is something I wish I had remembered to show you before we did our 1-point perspective picture. So this is something where we are going to be using size, placement, and overlapping to show depth. In our 1-point perspective pictures, we talked a little bit about how things that are close to the viewer are nice and big, and as they recede into the background, they get smaller. We're going to look at that a little bit more on a flat space first before we go back to 1-point perspective. So, as you guys remember from other pictures that you've done, maybe your landscapes that we did in 2nd grade, things that we see that are close to us in a landscape are usually low, and they're bigger because they're closer, and they're lower on our page. Things that are in the middle or the middle ground, this would be the foreground, the middle ground are going to be medium size, and they're sort of medium far away. And then things that are in the background, those things are going to be smaller and higher up on your page as they get further away. In 1-point perspective, those same things happen, but the front is on the left and the right side, and then the middle ground is halfway or on the way to the vanishing point on both sides, and then the background is nice and close to the vanishing point. On a flat space, though, we're going to take a look. We're going to imagine hot air balloons floating in the sky, and we're going to use some of those ideas to show depth and where something might be on the page. So I'm going to make my picture over here. All you guys need right now is a piece of paper. Later on, you will get a chance to add all sorts of details and patterns and designs to your hot air balloons. But for right now, I just want to show you this sort of idea. So I'm going to start with my piece of paper. And we're imagining hot air balloons that are floating in the sky. So when they're floating in the sky, we don't have to follow all of these rules. Things that are close to us still might be in the foreground or down at the bottom, but as they get further away, they'll get a little bit smaller. But because these are floating in the air, you could still have some things that are smaller next to some things that are bigger. But what do we know about the difference between these two then? If these are in our heads probably close to the same size, and this one appears to us nice and big, and this one appears smaller, which one do you think is farther away? The smaller one, right? So we're going to use this change in size to help us show depth. We are going to use placement on the page to show some as well. We know that we have some that are lower on our page that are close to us, and then some that are further on the page, higher on the page, that we know are further away. This one is also smaller. We're going to use one other element too, or one other tool. We're going to use overlapping. We know that if there's overlapping, artists use overlapping to show what is on top of the other thing. And whatever is the first thing that we see all of is obviously closer than the thing that is covered up. So we're going to get to draw some hot air balloons. And you're going to do this with your pencil, because when we are drawing and there's overlapping, there may be parts that you end up erasing. So I'm going to start with my pink marker so that you guys can sort of get an idea. You guys will draw with your pencils, and then if you want to go back and trace with your markers the lines that you're sure you're going to want to keep, or crayon, it's up to you. So we're going to make some balloons. And my hot air balloon is going to start off a shape like that. It's sort of like a petal shape, and it's going to start out small. It's going to get much bigger around the top, like a rainbow that is sort of hooked in, and we're going to make a line. Now this could just be the shape of our hot air balloon, but we're going to make 2 more lines. We're going to make the basket, and we're going to give a little bit of space. And this could be where the flame goes, and this is the basket where the people could be. And you might want to put some sandbags there. There's one. And so we're going to add a couple more. Now, if you make ones that look way farther away, they might be very small compared to the one next to it. Already we can tell, just because of the size, this one is probably closer than this one. Also with placement on the page, this one hasn't floated up quite as high and far away from the ground as this one has. This one is higher. So we're going to do a couple more. We can do a couple different sizes. Oops. Okay, a couple more. And maybe I'm going to put a nice big one there. Now, this one's even going to come off the page. But let's take a look at these two. Chances are, because this one is so big and this one is so small, which one do you think would be the closest one to the viewer, the big one or the small one? Probably the big one. So that's the one. So where there is overlapping here, we aren't going to see all of this balloon. We're going to use this part of the balloon. This is the first balloon that we saw, but this one is covering this one. There's overlapping to show depth, so we can see which one is in front and which one is in back. So I'm only going to see the part of my balloon that is in the back. We'll do a couple more. Maybe this one is small, but that's because it's lower, but it is much further away. So we're going to draw a couple of those balloons. Enough to sort of fill your page. It'd be sort of interesting to look at. You can also have some that come out of the page that run off the page or creep off the page. So we're going to fill our paper with our hot air balloons. And once we have that sort of filled in the paper, then you're going to get to add a pattern to your hot air balloons. And you can choose whatever sort of shapes. Remember, a pattern is something that repeats. Either the shapes are going to repeat or the colors are going to repeat. So you're going to decorate your hot air balloons. And so you may have one with a pattern of hearts. You may have one that is striped. You may have, now this one, remember, this one is just as it is. It's not gonna, or it is gonna cover this one. We could do polka dots. Could do zigzags. And so you're going to fill your hot air balloons with a variety of different patterns, and then you're going to get to color them. Now, if you want to also, you could add some clouds if you wanted, if it's a cloudy sort of day. Again, probably those clouds that are lower on the page and closer to the viewer are going to be bigger than the clouds that are further away. If you make them smaller or higher on the page, they're going to look like they are farther away. And then when you are done, you're going to get to use crayons or markers or watercolor paints if you have them. You can color your patterns, you can color your baskets. If you would like to draw people inside those baskets, because people are in hot air balloons, you can draw those as well. And I would love to see your finished pictures. Take a photo of them and either post them on the Google Classroom or email them to me. I can't wait to see them. Okay, great job, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.